Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm Lauren and I'm your host. Hopefully you recognise me from previous webinars. They are up on our website, so take a look at those, and a recording of this is going to go up on there as well. So as I said, I'm Lauren and I'm a Business Development Manager here at Enable, and I'm talking today to Adrian Worrell. Hi Adrian.
Hi Lauren.
So Adrian's from MKM, and today we're looking at customer success. So a review of Enable rebate management by MKM. So we're going to look at Adrian's role and what he does at MKM, how rebates were kind of managed before a system was put in place, and any benefits or any impact that's been seen after. Adrian's role in particular, looking at how he's found pulling data in and out of DealTrack and that kind of integration, and then any benefits and any advice he has for you guys watching. So hopefully you find it useful. Any questions throughout, just pop them in our Q&A and we'll answer as many of those as possible. So let's get started. So Adrian, how are you involved in the process of managing rebates?
So from a day-to-day basis, I'm not actually involved in managing rebates at all. I sit within MKM more as a project manager for getting the system up and running. So making sure we've got governance built in and making sure I'm acting as an intermediary between yourselves and the actual business users.
Yeah, so more of maybe a project manager? Or... Yeah,
project manager and systems development, I guess.
Okay, so how were rebates managed before at MKM, before kind of any system was in place?
So prior to us having a proper system in place, everything was managed through spreadsheets. So I guess a lot of people are the same. They're running various large reports out of the main ERP system, whatever that might be. For us, it's a system called Kerridge, which seems to be fairly unique to the building industry, but it's a big system. So we were running very large reports out of that system and using spreadsheets to manipulate that data to come up with what was the end product, the rebate value.
And what problems did you see or encounter that kind of persuaded you to look at a system?
So I think, as with any business that's using spreadsheets, they're prone to massive errors. Somebody changes a formula or deletes a sheet, and you know what that's like. It can take you a day to figure out what you've done. And from time to time, things that you've done last month might take you a while to figure out before you're able to do them again this month, because they're a one-off process. Also, with anything like this, where it's hundreds of contracts. Each one of those had various caveats in them. The propensity to make an error through the calculations is massive using spreadsheets. So we had we had a possible issue with the integrity of the data and the integrity of the end result as well. Through the use of spreadsheets.
Yeah, so I guess it's not just kind of maybe spreadsheets as a system, but also because the contracts could be quite complicated, it was kind of a dual complexity there of trying to understand Excel, but also understand the contract.
Yeah, and I think as well, it'd be fair to say that those spreadsheets were built by certain people that use them, and if they ever had to have any sort of holiday cover or somebody else take over that job, it'd be near impossible because it wasn't a supported system.
Okay, so I guess you kind of explained some of the problems there that might indicate the next question, but what was the motivation, I guess, to move to a system and stop using Excel?
I think when you look at MKM and the growth of MKM, you go back 2 or 3 years and we were kind of 30 branches. We're now knocking on sort of 70 branches, looking to turn over sort of $500 million nowadays. Our growth as a business has meant that we need more mature systems underpinning the processes. So there was a need to put a more robust system in place for our rebates, as well as the obvious opportunity of time saving and labour saving and increasing accuracy.
Yeah, I did notice the growth because I've seen a lot more MKM vans driving around. So, okay. So how did you get DealTrack up and running at MKM?
So when I got to MKM, they'd been working on the system for some time already. And I think it had come to a bit of a bottleneck for one reason or another. We didn't really have the internal resource to dedicate to any sort of project management. So there was no impetus from within our company to get things moving properly. So when I got there, obviously we'd done a little bit of testing. We had the basics of a system in place, but we weren't really using it at all.
So Adrian, what internal resources would you say you used or needed to get a system like this up and running?
Within MKM at the minute, or prior to the system, should I say, we obviously already had the people that were producing the outputs in terms of administrators. I don't really like to call them administrators because it's not just an administrative task.
Yeah.
And the commercial team that were providing the contracts for the financial administrators to process. Now, on top of those, we needed a project management resource, which I came along to do. But another very important resource was from within our technical IT team, if you like. So making sure that the data was in the right format, the right quality, etc.
Yeah.
I know that we talked about, it's easy to get it out, but you still need the right people to actually push the buttons to get that data out. Again, you guys helped. You told us exactly what formats you needed the data in. We told you what data we had. We gave you a sample of it. You tested it and made sure it was compliant and easy to integrate into your system.
Yeah.
But I think that was definitely a keystone in the process in getting the technical IT resource on board with the initial project team to make sure it drove through. I think without that, you're doomed to fail.
Yeah. So maybe that's something to consider if you're looking at a system. Yeah.
Certainly. Make sure you've got somebody from all of those disciplines, from the people that are putting the contracts together, being the commercial team, the people that are actually, doing the work itself. They're always going to be around, but an overseeing project management function and a technical IT resource are absolutely imperative.
Yeah.
And what was the testing process like, and how did you find that?
So for us, like I said, when I got there, it had come to a bit of an impasse. It was literally a matter of almost kind of a forensic accounting, forensic data job, whatever you want to call it, in that we had our current systems that were running. We had the deal track system in front of us that would put our contracts through. We literally just had to, in old-fashioned terms, tick and bash to see what matched and where it didn't match, find out why it didn't match, work with you guys to tweak anything that we needed to tweak or retrain bits that we needed to retrain on. So we could make sure that we were both presenting the same end result, the same data. That went pretty smoothly. I think that took us around a month. I dare say there's only a couple of 3 working days of actual work in there. It's just by the time people have got their other parts of the day job, etc. Actually getting it finished took a little bit of time, but we got there.
Okay. So Adrian, what platform did you use to prepare for your testing initially?
So initially we were using the linked SQL tables that we had with you guys through normal SQL Management Studio, which I know is very techy, but that's an industry standard piece of software that people are using to pull data out of a SQL system. That involved us leaning a lot on IT to get resource, to get them to pull various information out from various tables and understand relationships, etc. When I was brought on board, I've got expertise in a system called Click, which is one of the big business intelligence tools that transforms data and makes it more usable for a normal person to drag data out. So I worked with the development team over at Enable, who were very helpful in helping me understand the tables of data that were available, how they related, and how I could pull data out of the system. I then, in effect, push that through Click, so the end user, being our administrator, I guess, for want of a better term, could see the data as it refreshed and test that to their manual spreadsheets to make sure that the two bits of information married up. We initially went for the SQL Management Studio, but then moved using a more grown-up business intelligence tool like Click, connecting that directly to your Azure database. Again, your guys within, you use, is it Cello or the Help Studio? Cello, sorry. Through the use of the online ticketing Cello system, they were able to provide us the right details to be able to link directly to your database, so we could pull the information straight out to be able to test it. So it was really easy in terms of getting the information. The work, the hours that were put in were literally the checking of the information. And then when something was wrong, readjusting the contract in the system and then refreshing the data.
And how have you found, I guess, going off that then, interaction with third-party systems and kind of pulling data out of DealTrack? You kind of talked us through it. Has that been difficult? Or?
No, Dealtrack's extremely open. It's a standard Azure database that you can connect into. We use something called a REST API, which is again a common industry standard API to be able to get into your system.
Yeah.
It's bread and butter for people that kind of work in that industry, I guess.
Okay.
Not hard at all. The hard thing was just understanding the tables and their structures, which again, working with the development team at Enable, it was a matter of a phone call or two, and we'd got everything working as we needed it. We understood everything, so it was fine.
Okay. So Adrian, what controls have you put in place to support the use of Dealtrack?
Yeah, so governance around this type of thing is obviously very important because we're relying on these figures day in, day out.
Yeah.
Not just when we're agreeing the rebates with the suppliers, but when we're passing those rebates on to our retail outlets, and also when we're costing up products, etc. It's very important that those figures are accurate.
Yeah.
So we've tried to sort of self-audit. So we've put a bit of an internal audit process in place that also helps upskill another department. So we're considering using, should I say, somebody within our finance team that basically picks 2 or 3 of the contracts out a month, checks those to the Dealtrack system, follows those through to the calculations, and ticks to say that it's all accurate throughout. That way, they're learning and keeping up with any developments within the system, as well as checking the people that are actually doing the work. So that's on inputs and outputs. We also have within the system, there's a workflow control built in. So when we put the contract on, that goes to the person that's in effect formed the contract with the supplier, and they sign that off through an electronic workflow process. Yeah. So yeah, it's working.
So Adrian, what do you think the benefits have been then for MKM from having Dealtrack?
I think the benefits are very much comparable to a business that's running their finance system on spreadsheets to one that uses a proper ERP system.
Yeah.
You know, the possibility to break the whole process when we were back in spreadsheet land was massive, whereas now we've got a much more robust, supportable, trainable system. Yeah. So as well as that, having a much more stable platform, we're obviously, because of the fact that we can put in more governance and spend more time checking, we're hopefully a lot more accurate. Yeah, there's the labour saving of not producing spreadsheets. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's the difference between chalk and cheese. It's the spreadsheets versus a proper system.
Yeah, yeah. So Adrian, how do you think then that Dealtrack has benefited MKM in terms of the functionality of the various teams involved? Do you think there's been any benefit?
Yeah, I mean, there's the obvious safeguarding functions that it's afforded us now, because the commercial teams are now having, in inverted commas, oversight through a system being there. I think that's certainly adding credibility to the process as well as it just being a lot more robust. Because the system's there as well and it's available to more teams within the business, there's much more information provision. So a finance team now, rather than having to search for a spreadsheet for a particular month, they go into the system and look at that particular deal and see what the earnings are on it, etc. Or somebody within the purchasing team can just as easily do the same. And I think with time, as people get more and more training on it, we'll get more and more benefit from it.
Yeah, so it's really kind of helping that communication as well then between the teams.
Completely.
Like you said, not having to go sift through a spreadsheet, which doesn't sound fun.
No, the issue resolution as well, when somebody spots something, you know, all 3 of the main players, the 3 main teams, the finance, the commercial, and in effect, what we classify as trading support, kind of a commercial finance role, they're all able to resolve that query, that dispute very quickly. Yeah. Because they can all look at it.
Yeah, and see the same information.
Yeah.
Great. So Adrian, was there any benefits that you or maybe MKM didn't expect from having Dealtrack?
I think certainly from the outset, one thing that we didn't kind of put it in place for was the robustness that it's now afforded us behind this whole process. Yeah, we understood we had spreadsheets and we were going to a grown-up system, but the level of robustness in the process itself now, it's a lot more slick and a lot more uniform. So I think that's the biggest benefit for us, that it's just helped mature that process and step it up a level.
Yes, it's not just helping you manage rebates in a way that's more automatic, but actually there is that kind of the way they're calculated and tracked and managing that, but then also kind of internally what's going on between the teams, as you've said. I guess I think sometimes, that's maybe not considered as much, or maybe forgotten sometimes as well.
Certainly.
Yeah. Okay. So Adrian, I'm sure you're aware we've also brought out this idea of collaboration and collaborator. So sharing that information with your suppliers. So have you started using that? And yeah?
Yeah, again, I know that by working with you guys and you're on site, you're mentioning new products all the time. And so we're now going to start using the cash module, but something else that we have signed up to is to use the collaborator. We see it as a good tool to enable our suppliers to be able to see the current situation of their rebates with us. So it's not just our information that we're just holding, but it gives them an extra benefit as well. So yeah, it's something that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, and I guess another step in the right direction for MKM and that forward thinking that you kind of mentioned and talked about before.
Yeah, certainly. That collaboration with the suppliers is very important for us.
So Adrian, being a client, I'm obviously going to ask, how have you found us and how have you felt the support has been from Enable?
I've worked with quite a lot of companies in my career, and I must admit that the support we've received from Enable has been 10 out of 10.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're open-minded. They're very attentive as well. There's been certain things that have been very hard to solve, but again, we've sat in a room, we've opened it up and thought of ways through that pragmatically, developing in steps as well. So it wasn't kind of right, we can't do it, or it'll be a massive project. We split it up and digested it. We've communicated via the Cello ticket managing system, and that's been very good. Response time's fantastic. Again, if I need to speak to somebody on the phone, it's never too much trouble. And they're very knowledgeable. I can't really say anything bad. It's been a really good experience, so thank you.
So that's good to hear though. It's glad to know we don't just let you buy the software and leave you. So
yeah, it's been very much a cooperative effort we've developed together, so it's been good.
Great, okay. And would you have any advice then for anyone looking at a system? Any tips or?
I think I've worked in finance all my life, and a lot of the systems tend to be near enough the same with their own unique selling points, etc. I think the thing that differentiates the system is the backup that you get and the ability to actually onboard it into your company. Looking at the other systems that are out there to track rebates, they all promise X, Y, Z, but it's not really a massively overcomplicated system, if you like. It's not an overcomplicated process. I think the differentiation with you guys was just that support was fantastic. And it really helped us drive it to be a product that was successful and embedded rather than just something we bought and tried to use once.
So is Dealtrack used quite frequently now in MKM?
Yeah, Dealtrack's used a hell of a lot every day. Every single day.
That's good.
It's a big chunk of money at MKM. And there's a heck of a lot of contracts on it, so it's integral.
So to conclude then, Adrian, it seems like before at MKM it was very much kind of a manual system on spreadsheets and kind of maybe difficult sometimes for teams to communicate as it is with spreadsheets. And after having a system just kind of not only helping you calculate and track, but then also kind of helping with that communication part and everyone seeing the same information.
Very much.
And then, and in terms of you spoken about how you found pulling data out of Dealtrack and using the support from ourselves to do that, but also what the process was like. And then also kind of discussing what you found the benefits to be at MKM, so kind of the robustness across the business as opposed to just managing and calculating those rebates in particular. And then in terms of advice, I guess you were just talking about kind of similar systems out there and the fact that, the support is quite important to getting any system really up in any business. Okay. So Adrian, I'm sure we've probably had some questions coming in whilst we've been chatting. So if I just pull my phone out and take a look. Okay, so can Dealtrack pull data out of any ERP? So I think this individual is suggesting that maybe they're not using Kerridge. Have you?
It does depend on the ERP. At the end of the day, our ERP Kerridge is based on Oracle. Most of the big ERP systems that I've worked with in terms of SAP and Dynamics tier 1 systems, Dealtrack ain't going to have any problems at all. It's more about that system being able to push it. We actually extract it and push it every night via what they call SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol, up to you guys with a specific file name, and you return a message to say that it's been accepted. I think that most businesses now are used to chucking information around, and it certainly shouldn't be a problem. At the end of the day, all that we're really chucking up to you is our suppliers and our goods receipt notes. And more recently, because we're now calculating or trying to calculate rebates on sales, we're chucking you our sales information as well. So it's nothing extraordinary, nothing too hard.
Yeah. Okay, great. Another question we've had is, how does DealTrack compare to other systems you use? Is it easy to use? I guess you mentioned that a bit, but maybe they're asking there, how's it in comparison to others?
Yeah. Well, it's a web front end system. It's very intuitive to navigate around. Obviously, you need to have good knowledge of rebates and contract structures, etc. But it's really not a hard system to use at all, both for obviously getting data in, for getting data out, and for using it on a day-to-day basis. It's got a very good help section, and again, I've said it a number of times, but backed up by you guys as well, it makes it very easy to use.
Okay, so you just need to be the right guy, sounds like. Okay, so another question is, how do you think you would have, I guess what they're trying to say is it worth having a system? How would MKM managed rebates without a system?
Awkwardly. Again, going back to the volume, it was okay when we had 30 branches. It was still hard and took a lot of work. When you've got the size of business that we've now got, I think it'd be extremely hard, as well as probably needing to employ double the resource to manage it. So I think it's impractical to even think about going back to where we were before. We wouldn't be able to handle the volume or complexity. On top of that, we're even looking further, I guess, into now it's uncovering itself as having additional benefits. We can now bolt on such things as there's a cash module that you guys are now starting to offer us. So we can in effect run the rebates as ledgers to apportion the cash and any under or over absorptions of the rebates. So we couldn't do without it.
Yeah, so maybe suggesting things that you hadn't thought of, or if you were focused on primarily kind of calculating and managing, wouldn't have time to think of it.
Oh, certainly not. Certainly not. This is giving us that bit of breathing space to think with a little bit more innovation of how we can now really, really make it good.
Yeah, great. We do have some more questions coming in, but unfortunately we don't have time to answer those, I'm afraid. So thank you so much, Adrian, for your time. So I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today, but do keep those questions coming in and we will be in touch with you and answer as many of those as possible shortly. So don't fear, those will be answered. Thank you for watching, and if you want to view the recording of this or any other webinars, take a look on our website. A recording of this will go up on there. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, and keep up to date with what we're doing. We hold these on a monthly basis, so watch out for our next webinar. But thank you very much for watching and take care. Bye.